of the Union address. It happened while Trump was talking about illegal immigration.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Republicans stood up for a while Democrats remained seated. Then Trump said, "You should be ashamed of yourselves not standing up." Omar yelled, "You should be ashamed," from her seat, while Trump spoke louder.
That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens.
The beloved bald eagles in Big Bear, California are trying to grow their family once again.
Video from the live nest cam of the eagles, known as Jackie and Shadow, shows a freshly laid egg in the nest. It's the third egg of the season for the popular birds after tragedy struck last month. Jackie and Shadow's nest was invaded by ravens last month, ruining the 2 eggs that had been laid. The eagles have raised several eaglets over the years, including last year, when their popularity soared with the birth of Sunny and Gizmo, who have since flown the nest. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Being a bird watcher might be good for your brain.
A Canadian study published this week in the Journal of Neuroscience says bird watching may enhance cognitive function as you grow older. The researchers from Toronto studied the brains of 58 bird watchers, half of them experts and the other half novices. The study showed the brains of experts had modifications in regions associated with attention and perception, and showed the experts were better at object recognition and task performance skills. The study suggested that knowledge acquisition might help slow down age-related mental decline. I'm Michael Kastner.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives. And MediShare is proven you can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi responded on CNN after President Trump singled her out during his State of the Union remarks on congressional stock trading. Trump urged passage of the Stop Insider Trading Act and questioned whether Pelosi stood in support. Pelosi says she did stand and denies any wrongdoing, noting lawmakers are prosecuted if laws are broken. The exchange highlights renewed bipartisan debate over restricting stock trades by members of Congress and their families. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly given his teenage daughter, Kim Ju-ai, a leadership role in the regime's missile administration, overseeing the country's nuclear arsenal. South Korean intelligence suggests she may be acting as a missile general director and is being positioned as a potential successor. The move comes as North Korea showcases advances in missile technology and continues to suspend diplomacy with the U.S. and South Korea. A Cook County judge is ruling that the city of Chicago has systematically overcharged residents for city stickers and other parking violations for over a decade. Perry Williams has more.
Attorney J.C. Zollner says the city of Chicago can't help itself when it comes to ticket revenue.
About 16 years ago, it started to jack up all of its ticket prices to the point where several exceeded that cap.
The cap for fines is $250. Thousands of Chicago drivers could be getting refunds totaling $100 million. City officials are considering an appeal.
I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580. For 24-hour response, call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. That's right. If it's Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern at 1590 AM and 95.3 FM, it is the Common Sense Conservative. Joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris White in Central PA there. Colonel, how are you, sir?
Older. How about yourself? Entertained by last night's State of the Union address, and then awesome comedy hour that followed the second hour. It was incredible. If you believe that the primary responsibility of the U.S. government is to defend Americans and not illegal aliens, please rise. Oh, look at who's sitting, you scumbags.
One side of the entire place was sitting. I remember.
Yeah.
That was John, the best part. That was the best part right there.
Yeah, that's the voice of John Grosvenor holding down the studio. John, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Todd. Doing well. You know, I'm a little disappointed in Governor Ayotte because Kelly Ayotte, because she apparently paid a visit to D.C. and had a talk with Kristi Noem about this ice center they're going to put up in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and they agreed that it's no longer going to be a deal. So I guess she kind of, it's an election year. She's got to kind of cater to those leftist votes, and so I thought it was kind of disgusting because she was a former attorney general. She's supposed to be a lawyer. She's supposed to be about the execution of law, and she backpedals on this one or offers no, hey, you know what? There's some facilities over here. We could do this. Nothing. Just bail out on it. It's kind of, to me, it was kind of ignorant. That's all. So, but anybody listening to the show knows I've not been a fan of Kelly Ayotte anyway. So,
well, you've tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. To be fair here, you sing her praises whenever she's done something good. So I think you've been fair as a media personality.
I think I'm an objective person for the most part. I'm very objective, and if credit to due, I'll give credit when it's due. And there's a lot of things you're right. There's a lot of things she's done that I've approved of. Some things I question, and this one is one of them.
Right, absolutely. So we do have a guest tonight. A guest we were supposed to have There was some mix-up, some issues there, but we do have a returning guest. His name is David Sill. He's a retired Jefferson County educator, recognized artist, local businessman, 917 Society volunteer, who we've had the founder on before, immediate past chairman of the Jefferson County, Tennessee Republican Party. He also served Jefferson County, Tennessee as a county commissioner and as citizen lobbyist for the people on issues such as eminent domain, property rights, education, and broadband accessibility at the state level. David is a columnist for the Jefferson County Post and staff writer for the Tennessee Conservative. He joins us here via phone to kind of fill in for our guest who bailed on us kind of a last minute, if you will. But he's going to give us an update on a few things he's been working on down in Nashua. In fact, he's on the phone driving from Nashville, having been in front of the state legislature this past couple of weeks. David, you there with us?
Oh, yeah. Good to be here, Todd.
There we go. Give us an update real quick to some of the people, listeners and viewers who maybe are aware of what you've talked about in the past. Give us an update on where you stand right now and what you're working on before we jump into some questions.
Oh, that's great. I'm working on 4 different bills. One will bring part of the real estate transfer tax back to county governments in Tennessee, and that will allow people that will allow money to be used that's paid at the local level to be used at the local level. Right now, Tennessee government takes all the real estate transfer taxes and takes it to the state level and uses it there. It's better used at the local level, so we're trying to get a portion of it back. I've got a bill for civics education that will require all new teachers coming into Tennessee to pass the same civics test that all the immigrants have to pass when they get their citizenship. So any new teacher coming in, if this bill were to be enacted, will have to take that test. We have a bill concerning school board prayer. You know, there's been so many opinions on both sides of whether a school board can open their meeting with a prayer or not. We're actually having to run a bill to give them authority to do that. So that's another bill I'm working on. And finally, the big one, the 300-pound, 500-pound elephant in the room is the eminent domain bill that I'm working on, which is one of those things I'm famous for. And this one deals with fair compensation, or just compensation as our Constitution says, when airport authorities take property for airport expansion or airport building. So that's the 4 we're working on, the big 4 this year.
All right, absolutely. Well, where would you like to start at? How about the eminent domain bill, the big bill there? Let's talk about that and parse that out if we could, and kind of see where we're at the state legislature. What all can you tell us about that in a little bit more detail?
Well, Todd, the eminent domain bill that we're running is the result of a meeting that I had with property owners in Blount County, Tennessee, near McGee Tyson Airport, whose properties are being purchased by the airport right now. So they're being purchased from so-called voluntary willing sellers to an agency that has the power of eminent domain over them, which really in reality is not really a voluntary sale. It's a coerced sale. And we're trying to make sure that everyone is properly compensated for the property that is taken by airport authorities all over Tennessee. It's not just Alcoa and Blount County and McGee Tyson Airport. It's all eminent domain wielding airport authorities across Tennessee. So if you're in Memphis or Chattanooga or Nashville or Knoxville or Tri-Cities, and the airport decides they want your house or your farm or your business so they can expand their airport, our bill would properly compensate the landowner for damages they suffer when such a taking occurs. And if it's okay with y'all, I'd like to just describe a few points about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go into a few points, and we'll turn it over to the Colonel after that for some questions.
Okay, that's good to be back on with the Colonel. I hadn't heard from y'all in a while, so we went down a list of items that property owners kind of suffer when they lose their property to a taking like this, and one of them is moving expenses. Now, we're well aware the Uniform Relocation Act covers part of that, but we're filling in some holes, and we're empowering property owners to take estimates and bids on those moving expenses. Some people may have a very extensive move process. Others may have a small one. So we're allowing the property owners to get bids on that, and when they do, the court will decide which moving company gets the task of moving the person, and it covers a lot of things, and both external and internal, if it's a business or a home or even a farm, and those things would be paid by the condemner, including any estimates that it took to acquire an estimate or an appraisal on how much it would cost to move. And then, speaking of appraisals, we're empowering the property owner to obtain their own appraiser at the expense of the condemner. So there's no shenanigans going on between the condemner and the appraiser. And by doing so, that puts the property owner on a more even playing field. And of course, the fallback on that is if the judge in the case is not satisfied with the quality of appraisal, they can get a second or a third appraisal at the expense of the condemner. So there's the appraisal fees. And then, as everybody knows, the interest rates a few years ago were much lower. Most of them around 2 or 2.5%. And now today, if you took out a mortgage, you would be facing 5 to 8%, depending on who you got it from. So we have a provision in the bill that would pay for damages if your interest rate were to go up on your new home. So that's something that we feel like is very much damaging, especially if your interest rate goes up, 4% when you have to move. And then finally, since the property owner is having to give up all of their future gains in the property and turn it over to an airport authority who will lease it out to a hotel chain or an airline or one of the rental car companies or maybe a fuel supplier, since they're taking property for that purpose to run the airport, we've put a factor of 150% on the appraisal. So the condemner would have to pay 150% of the appraised value of the property. So that's the bill in a nutshell on the eminent domain relative to airports.
Excellent. We can turn it over to the Colonel for some questioning there. Go ahead, Colonel.
Yeah, my question is it just focused on airports? So you were talking about a broader concept there, or is this one just focused on airports? Maybe I misunderstood.
It's airport authorities and municipal airports specifically, and we had to narrow it down to that simply because they play by a different set of rules than other condemners, and we felt like since there were so many airport expansions going on, we would attack the issue of airport takings narrowly. In the past, we've attacked the issue of industrial parks, and we've attacked the issue of housing authorities, which was last year's bill that we had talked about on your show, and then 2 or 3 other things that amounted to less egregious type takings, if there is such a thing. So it is narrowly focused on airports.
No, it makes sense. But it's something that the president mentioned last night, which I've talked about in the past, is the rapacious appetite of data centers and computer processing for electricity, which is driving up residential rates across the country. And the president proposed a program last night to let these folks build their own power plants. I foresee an issue with eminent domain coming here with these big corporations that want to put their power plants in a spot they want to put it and try to take homeowners out of their property. Is this something that's crossed you guys' desk? I mean, I'm not trying to give you more work, but is it something you thought about?
It is. And so people have expressed opinions, also strong opinions about battery storage facilities, and that's along the same lines. But I understand that's for energy conservation or energy storage. But the AI centers and the data centers consume massive amounts of electricity. And everyone knows when you put that kind of stress on your local grid or your local power distributor, you take up all the slack in the grid. And we don't have very much slack in the grid in Tennessee anymore, especially. And I would expect, since Tennessee has such loose laws, they're like Swiss cheese, they're full of holes. And I would expect eminent domain to be an issue when corporations cannot acquire the property on their own, and this gets classified as a utility, and here we go. I think it would. I think it's they haven't specifically put AI centers or data centers in eminent domain law, but I think if you classified it as a utility, it would be wide open for takings.
Well, and that's exactly what I foresee happening. We already know, of course, power plants are utilities, so that can be done that way. But I do foresee the tie to the data centers, so I appreciate you bringing that. What I have to say is I'm really impressed by the detail you guys put into this, because first off, from my opinion, I mean, if we know American history, we know that eminent domain has been used in a productive fashion to build railroads from coast to coast, to build ports and things like that were necessary for the betterment of the nation as a whole, or the region, rather than simply an individual. But we also know that this has been abused a lot, especially in the past 30 or 40 years, by corporations, casinos, things like that. I can point to Bridgeport, Connecticut, where they tore up and they forced an entire neighborhood of century-plus old homes. People had owned the homes for 4 and 5 generations, and they forced them out, and basically what I would consider a fire sale price, because they didn't have these protections where they can bring in their own assessor to adjudicate the difference between the lowball offer that the government gave them. But what I really like about what you're addressing here with this is that you're talking about some things that people never consider. Well, okay, they want to take my property because they want to build, a power plant. Okay, they're going to give me $10,000 or $100,000 for the property. That's all fine and dandy, but I have a 2.75% mortgage right now. Now I have to refinance because you only give me this much money, and I get a house that costs twice what I paid for my house 20 years ago, because that's what they cost now. Now I got a mortgage $300,000 at 6.75%, despite having a good credit record. My mortgage goes from $900 to $3,200 a month. That's insane and unfair. And so the damages you're talking about here, I think that's absolutely brilliant, and it needs to be addressed, because homeowners get screwed royally here. Not to mention all the legal expenses. If you fight eminent domain, you incur legal expenses. I mean, I think that ought to be a consideration, if that's even possible, for legal expenses if you lose to be included in this. If they take your land, that should be rolled up in it. But I suppose that's going to be a little bit harder to do, because people who don't have a legitimate basis to fight eminent domain might fight it, and it wouldn't be fair to the people purchasing. Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect sense, and that reminds me of one of the things that we put in the bill that we had not spoken about earlier, and that is if a condemner, such as a municipal government or airport authority, tries to take your property for an airport taking, and for some reason they either back out or they abandon the taking, or the judge rules that they cannot take the property for some reason or another, then you are due payment by the condemner for your legal fees. Now, that provision is only triggered if they can't take the property or if they back out, but that's a protection. And also another element that we're trying to change in the law, which is really pleasing the airport authorities in Tennessee, is that right now, the way it stands, there is a little known provision in the law that says that these airport authorities can take possession of your property. Believe it or not, it's in code. They can take possession of your property before the case is adjudicated. That means they don't have to pay you before they take it. They can take possession of it, and all the payments of damages and the trial and all the things that go along with that could be done post possession of the property. And we're taking that language out and substituting it for language that would require the condemner to satisfy all the damage payments, legal fees, property costs, and everything before they can take possession of the property.
Well, listen, I'm not an attorney, and I no longer play one on the practice with Dylan McDermott, but I have to say that as a layperson, it would seem to me that that's just morally wrong, that this authority can come along, evict you from your home, flatten your home, expand an airport, and then later they lose the judgment. You're homeless, you have no money, they don't pay you while this whole thing sits in abeyance. I don't know who crafted that law, but I think we need to take them out with some little horsehide and teach them a lesson on the city public street there in the public square.
The law dates back to 1957, and it's two sentences in code. And it's one of the worst things I've ever discovered in Tennessee law concerning eminent domain. And not only that, if, for example, something goes wrong after they take possession of the property, by saying something goes wrong, I mean they're not able to take it, the law gives the condemner a way out cost-free. So we're looking at how that works and what we might need to change next year. But that's an egregious violation of due process, in my humble opinion.
Well, I agree with your humble opinion. I mean, this is complete violation. I mean, it's like search and seizure. You know, we're protected from unreasonable search and seizure, but states like Florida pull people over and police confiscate cash and don't have to justify it. And these people never get their money back. It's shocking how the Constitution gets violated by the states of New Jersey on the Second Amendment, Maryland on the Second Amendment, Florida for unreasonable search and seizure. Our Constitution gets abused all the time, and this sounds like another case of it. You know, it's very distressing to me that such a thing could even happen. And I'm generally a person that doesn't go in for, well, hey, I sponsored these bills, I got these bills approved. But when a law is necessary to overwrite or rescind a mess like you guys have inherited there, I think that is one time that I will support legislation, because most times legislation is taking our liberty away. It looks like you're trying to protect people's constitutional rights and restore their liberty, because, I mean, this is insane when you think about it on the face of it. I mean, and here's the question I've got for you, David, after that little, I guess, soapbox there for a moment. But here's the question I've got for you is what is the issue in Tennessee? What's the biggest concern? Are airports expanding their operations and adding space, or are there possibilities of new airports coming along? I mean, have you reached the threshold or saturation point for the number of airports you have in the state, or are you looking at them likely expanding their size and gobbling up people's property?
To answer your question, there are 5 major airports in the state of Tennessee, and I've met with all the CEOs of the airports in one office at one time, and most of them have expressed to me that they are in the process of expanding, particularly the Nashville airport. They're interested in lengthening the runway for longer international flights. The city of Knoxville appoints a airport authority that runs an airport called the McGee-Tyson Airport, and they're in the process of expanding because business is booming at that airport and flights are being added. There's some discussion in the news media about them becoming an international airport. The airport authority is telling me that that's probably a long-term proposition. And then, you look at the Memphis airport, they have not spoken to me directly like McGee-Tyson has, but I would expect that Memphis and Tri-Cities would both be looking at expansion. So the bill that we're running is primarily aimed at airport authorities that use their power of eminent domain to expand. And there has been no discussion whatsoever of a new airport coming in. I think it's just the increase in business at the existing airports that's prompting them to expand their services and their facilities.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But what about at the county level? You know, a lot of counties, I'm not that familiar with how frequent you have airstrips and airfields around the state on counties. I do know that in Pennsylvania and Maryland, in Ohio, I'm very familiar with those locations. And it's surprising how many airfields you actually come across. Does this also fall under that? It would govern that as well?
No, this is only aimed at airport authorities that possess eminent domain powers. The small municipal airports are owned and operated by either city or county governments or a combination thereof. They have eminent domain powers that run through a different channel, and we're not working on that currently. We probably should, but this is only for the major airports that have their own eminent domain authority based on the fact they're an airport authority.
I see. So these major commercial airports in the metropolitan areas have their different authority for eminent domain as opposed to what county municipal authorities have. But whatever the case is, all these authorities have the ability to take your land.
Yes, the cities and counties have always had the authority to take property for public use, whether it's an airport or a
park,
civic center for the local population, or maybe a jail or a school or something like that. But a year ago, we took out 2 years ago, we took out a provision for parks and recreation. So these local governments that once had, the power to put a bike trail through your backyard in the neighborhood, they no longer have that. So the eminent domain basically is a different channel. It's eminent domain nevertheless, but it's under a different set of statutes that do not govern airports.
Well, you're doing a lot of work in the background on this, and I think if Tennesseans knew in the volunteer state what you're doing, and most of them would be grateful you're doing it. Maybe not the airport authorities, but others would probably be very grateful. Is there any public acknowledgement or knowledge of the process or what's going on? Do people have realized what kind of risk they're in if airports are near them and want to gobble up their property? Or is this kind of an unknown for people and you're quietly, like the guys making the sausages, it's time to make the donuts in the background there at Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. You're just doing the critical work that needs to be done. And people probably don't even know about it and appreciate it. I'm just curious.
I'll be honest with you. I've worked with eminent domain now for almost 10 years, and I've made some horrific discoveries with the power of eminent domain that's can be used by airport authorities. Excuse me. Namely, the provision that they can take possession of the property before the case is adjudicated. I found that to be egregious as far as the Fifth Amendment due process is concerned. That's the taking without due process, and it's like due process after the fact. Reminds me a lot of civil asset forfeiture. They can take the property off of you, the car, the cash, the firearms, every element of property that they suspect, believe it or not, that they suspect is an instrument of a crime. And all of this is adjudicated in a civil court after the property is taken, which I feel like is unconstitutional. It's exactly the same way with airport authorities. They do the taking. They seize the property, and then it goes through a judicial process, which I think is just asinine.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. And it puts me in mind of the collectivization efforts in the Ukraine and in Belarus and Russia in the 1930s by the communists who took land from people and imprisoned people in gulags. I don't know if we're coming to that stage, but taking their land unjustly and no right of recourse. In China, the same sort of thing happened when they took land and collectivized. And now we're seeing something near and dear to me in South Africa, a country that has a law that requires just and equitable compensation agreed to by both parties, which was pretty sound constitutional protection. They passed a law last year that allows the government to expropriate property without compensation. And the politicians are actually arguing, David, that no, it's not no compensation. The law says nil compensation. I may not be a Shakespeare, but I do know what the word nil means. Last time I checked, it meant nothing. So in South Africa, they've passed a law that allows the government for public purposes to take any property, not just land, property in the public interest for no compensation. That ought to scare the bejesus out of them. I mean, it's shocking to see that happen overseas, but it's just downright terrifying to see it happen in the land of the free in the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. Wow. It's pretty scary there, David.
Yeah, there's lots of scary things, even in the laws of the United States. And one of the things that I've decided to do a little bit later on is engage with some of the residents in Alcoa, Tennessee, and try to work on doing some podcasting and broadcasting. And of course, I'm going to keep my readers up to speed on this in the Tennessee Conservative and the Jefferson County Post, and try to put the word out there of what government can do concerning property and compensation for it when they take it. We're not actually trying to stop eminent domain with airport authorities. We're concentrating specifically on the compensation component, because we understand that airports have to be built, they have to be expanded, that private enterprise is going to be operating the airport. We understand that that's part of the transportation grid in the United States. But the property owners that give up all of their future interest in property certainly need to be well compensated.
Well, I mean, I'm not arguing against eminent domain either. I think it's a necessary public tool, even though I'm a small government person for the reasons you mentioned. As I said, we would never have had a railroad coast to coast if they had to go around properties and sideways and up and down and be so unproductive and inefficient. It would negate all the value of using the rail. Not just that, and same with airfields. and as you were talking about here, and ports and facilities like that. It's the abuse of eminent domain, I think, that we're all concerned about, and that sounds like you're focused on. I mean, like I said, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, there was no reason to destroy that century-plus old neighborhood where all these people lived and make them move to another place just to put a casino up. I mean, the casino could have been built elsewhere, but someone's greedy desires overrode common sense, and that was an abuse of eminent domain. And I think I suspect that's what you're going after, is you want to avoid the abuse. You're not necessarily trying to hamper this law. It's necessary. I think we all agree, but it also needs to be, it needs good oversight. It needs public discussion. People, it needs sunlight. That's the best disinfectant. And if it's warranted, if it's necessary to expand the Memphis airfield, then it's necessary. But not if it's just because it's more convenient to do it in a different way. I think maybe we're in agreement on all that. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, Todd, you know how I am. I can steal all the oxygen in the room. I don't want to do that here. Let's hand this back to you and John. And I guess I'll just jump in if I got a pressing question again.
There you go, for sure. Yeah, John, you're a constitutionalist. I mean, certainly a constitutional conservative. How does what are some questions you have right now for David, and some issues that you've seen out there that maybe you could bring some light to it?
Well, I listen to what I'm hearing and my blood starts to boil, because I remember in the early 2000s when they were talking about this very thing, about the ability to take it. They had it on the polls there to vote on if you believe corporations should be able to use eminent domain and take people's property and stuff like that. And they were also talking about lack of compensation. We've heard stories in New Jersey where they've done this to people, taken the property without compensation, and corporations have done this. And this kind of like what we're talking about here in Tennessee, and I think to myself, well, my God, why don't we just jump back to the witch trials, start judging everybody as witches, as burning them at the stake, and take their land and make a big land grab, and everybody can get rich off it. It's ridiculousness, man. This is just absolutely and totally ridiculousness. It's unfair. It's unjust. And I like to hear somebody like David that's standing up for the people of Tennessee to protect their interests, because that's exactly what they need right now. They need somebody who's going to stand up and protect their interests, not just the people, but small businesses are going to get absorbed in this too, from what I'm hearing.
She's a witch. Burn her. Burn her. She's a witch.
Exactly. Burn her at the stake. So
yes, they put the nose on me. I'm not a witch. They put the nose on me.
They put the nose. So I'm kind of curious, David. You got legal teams, right? When you're making legislation like this, you got legal advisors and stuff like that coach you and help you along when you write your legislation. I'm wondering, do they have some discussions about this, and what are they saying?
Could you you cut out there just a little bit? Could you please repeat that question? I'm terribly sorry.
It's all right. You're driving. I get it. So I'm just kind of curious. So you'll have legal advisors as you're making the legislation, I assume, within your Congress. And I'm wondering if they've had discussions about this, and you've been able to hear these discussions. And what is their take on this? How are they responding to this?
Well, as we've discussed on this program before, I work closely with the Institute for Justice in Minnesota and Arlington, Virginia, and sometimes in San Antonio, Texas. They have attorneys all over the country, and they have very good eminent domain attorneys, and they have, to some degree, advised me on this. I've had private attorneys that were kind enough to, lend their services free of charge on this. But basically, when it comes to travel expenses and, other fees that it takes to go from where I live all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, which is about 250 miles, all of that is borne on me to pay the expenses. And the other people that are working on this with me, when they travel to Nashville, which they did last week, they have to go at their own expense. And we're kind of, paying for it ourselves as we go. And, there's not a whole lot of, eminent domain is not a very sexy topic, and people are not willing to pay to get these things done. So I have to pretty much do it at my own expense.
Well, that is an issue. People don't want to get involved and help out a little bit with the cost unless it's at their front door. People are very motivated when it's affecting them, but they don't feel it affecting them right away. They think it's not going to, and they don't get involved. They don't see it as important. I don't know what it is about Americans. I criticize people constantly that you've got to get involved, because politics concerns you. It affects your daily lives, whether you realize it or not. These are the policies and the laws that we have to live by. And it should be more important than watching The Simpsons and drinking beer, for Christ's sake. Great that you're entertained with television. Great you're entertained with the nonsense out there in the world, but entertain yourself with what's important in life, and that's politics. And I think I don't know, have you tried to do anything like a GoFundMe or something to get something going that you can get a little alleviance here on the cost?
Well, I will say this: for the past 2 or 3 years, the local Jefferson County government has helped pay part of my expenses, part of my out-of-pocket expenses. Not all of them. They've paid for some of them. So I'll have to give my former colleagues on the county commission in Jefferson County a little bit of credit for stepping up to the plate and standing up for property rights, and taking a little bit of money out of their fund balance to help me travel to Nashville. So there is that. And every once in a while, people will offer me, a coin or two. But I'm under a little bit different situation right now because I'm a registered lobbyist for Jefferson County now, and they're paying me to lobby legislation other than property rights this year. So I have to be extremely cautious about any money that's taken because our ethics commission has a very strict set of rules on how you receive money and how you show that. So I have to keep everything crystal clear and transparent so that so there's not any impropriety or even the appearance of impropriety. But that's a good idea. Maybe I should think about a GoFundMe account for eminent domain that would help with some of those expenses or something similar.
Crowdfunding is a thing, and it can be very useful and very helpful. Can you get a team of people to work with you maybe to help raise the funds to get these things done? I mean, it's not just you, it's other people that you're working with that also need a little bit of help. So is it possible to put together a small committee of people to work on funding?
Well, that's a good idea. There's several people that have traveled to Nashville to support what I'm doing and what the people that I'm working with are doing on the eminent domain. So I'll take that as advice, and maybe we can put a committee together to help fund these trips. That's a good idea.
Absolutely. Many hands make light work. If we all pitch in a little bit, it's kind of like if you had 1 million people gave $5 each, the money wouldn't be an issue in this, would it? $5 is nothing, right? It's next to nothing. We can all afford $5. No big deal.
Right.
So it's just a matter of getting people involved, getting them to understand the importance, probably a little bit of marketing behind it. Yeah. I hope you can get a group to get people together and get this going, because it sounds important to me. It sounds like anybody listening, this is a concern for you as well. We've all heard it, right? When people say, "Oh, they're going to take a portion of my land to widen the road," and they're looking forward to that little bit of money they're going to get, or that big chunk of money they're going to get from the city or town or whatever. But when it's taken for free, when you're not getting compensated for it, that's a whole different picture.
Well, the airport authorities do compensate. I wouldn't say that they don't compensate. They just inadequately compensate.
Yes.
And our legislation is filling in those holes where people are damaged, and now they're going to get compensation for all of their damages, not just some of them, not just for their property itself. And we feel like that's fair, and we feel like it is equitable for the property owner and the condemner, because they have stepped into the role of expanding airports, and they need to anticipate expenses and to properly compensate people.
However, Dave, I do recall that you had said that they can take your land and then work through the courts, which means the person being condemned on is going to be losing out. They're the ones that got to reach into their pocket for their cost of moving, for their relocation, for their acquiring of other properties until this gets settled in the courts, correct?
Yeah, and the code section that I'm referring to, I can't call it by number. I wish it was in front of me, but it basically says the condemner can take possession of the property upon the commencement of the eminent domain proceeding. That's I'm ad-libbing or paraphrasing there, but that's essentially what they're able to do. And then the adjudication and the payments and everything else are subsequent to the initial filing to take the property.
So this could be a strain on the individual whose property is being taken away, who's being affected by this. It's going to be a financial strain or a burden on him, and it sounds like an unnecessary burden. I should say it may be. It's not always the case, but what you're describing insinuates it may be a financial burden or strain in which they should not have to absorb at the beginning.
Yeah, it certainly is 100%.
But what do you think, Todd?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, the least amount of burden we can place on the individual, the citizen, the better. The burden should be on the airport authority, the condemning authority, the people who have the eminent domain authority, without a doubt. The least amount of burden should be on the individual, the citizen, and their rights should be protected wholly. Obviously, the government does have certain rights as well, but we want to make sure they're not being taken advantage of, for sure, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought maybe you had some more questions for him.
No, yeah, I have plenty of more questions. We could talk about this all day because it is an infuriating thing. Obviously, eminent domain. Some of the other bills you were talking about there, David, if you could bring those up really quick, and we'll do a quick round robin of questions before we run out of time here.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I'd like to start with a nice, easy topic, which is school board prayer. And
okay.
When I put the bill in, I didn't expect very much resistance because Tennessee's running many other bills that put Bible doctrine into schools, and you know they just it's all about the Ten Commandments and the Bible doctrine in schools and the teaching of the Bible. And you would think in that environment that it wouldn't be hard to get a school board prayer bill through, just to allow a school board to open their meeting with a 2 or 3 minute prayer. This is all we're dealing with here. But there are people throwing case law at me saying that it's impermissible simply because the Sixth Circuit ruled 26 years ago on Coles versus Cleveland, by the way, is the name of the case. And of course, that was 2 Clinton appointees that decided that opinion. And the lone Reagan appointee wrote a dissent and explained exactly why a school board having a prayer is not a violation of the Establishment Clause. Well, that was brought up, and now I'm going to have to cite 6 or 7 cases, Espinoza versus Montana and the Kennedy versus Bremerton decision, and explain to the legislators that the Supreme Court has, in fact, changed its approach and changed its doctrine and changed its test for the Establishment Clause. So we're going to have to fight that one committee at a time all the way to the top. So that's in a sense what.
How many committees is that going to have to go through just to allow a local school board to have a prayer if they so choose? Quite a few. Okay. All right.
We did get a favorable vote in the education subcommittee. It was actually 6-0, and now that we're in full committee, it has to go through full education committee in the House, and then it has to go through the House Finance Committee, and then from Finance it goes to Calendar and Rules, and then it goes to the floor of the House, and then just like a medieval battle where you have to go through the moat and then climb over the wall, the same bloody mess you have to go through in the Senate. So it starts out in the Senate Education Committee, goes up through Finance, Ways and Means, Calendar and Rules, and then on to the floor of the Senate. If you survive all the challenges in both chambers all the way to the top, you get a bill passed.
Wow. If it doesn't get sent to summer study to die, right?
Listen, man, I even hate the word summer study. The House of Representatives in Tennessee is notorious for summer study, and the Senate version of that slow death is called General Sub. There's not even a subcommittee in the Senate, by the way, and somebody inevitably, when they want to kill a bill, they'll move it to General Sub, and if you get General Sub, you've been put out of business.
Right. You got to start all over. And so the likelihood of this passing, but obviously not this year, but probably, let's say it passes next year at some point. What time could we see it implemented? What are we looking at if it passes?
I'm optimistic that the school board prayer bill is actually going to pass. I think it's going to be hard to get it to the top. but I think we've had one positive vote in one subcommittee in the House, and I think it's going to go. I'm not going to put a probability on it, but we're in an environment where I believe they're likely to approve it, and I think the United States Supreme Court is on our side concerning prior to school board meeting. They're just looking at it differently along the lines of tradition and coercion. They don't have the old Sandra Day O'Connor lemon test anymore to go by, and I just think they're a little bit more willing to let people express their religious views in a meeting.
Right. And no one's saying you got to stand up or be forced to pray or pray whatever that denomination is that night. Let's say you have a guest chaplain, like they do in the House and Senate. They have guest chaplains. Let's say you have somebody praying who's maybe not your denomination. No one's saying you have to stand up, right? We're not forcing anybody here.
No, there's actually language in the bill, which I wrote into the bill, which would bar anyone from coercing anyone or intimidating or trying to bully somebody into participation. It is completely voluntary, and it is completely permissive as far as the school board's concerned. And on top of that, it is religion neutral. There's no provision in it for any one religion. It's whatever religion the school board members practice, they can pray.
Right. There you go. Colonel, you had some questions there?
No, I'm just listening to the fascination here. John's questions are pretty good, but we're coming up at the end here. So I am curious about what got you so interested in this, though. I mean, what drove the eminent domain interest? Because I mean, it's obviously something I've paid attention to for a long time, but it's not something I've got involved in, and certainly in legislation. Just something I've got irate about over the years. I'm just curious, what brought you to this? Was it an incident, or just you happen to come across and go, wait a second, what's going on here?
I'm glad you asked me that question, because 13 years ago, eminent domain came to me, and at the time, Tennessee allowed eminent domain to be used to take property for industrial parks. So the local county government could do that if they so chose. And the local Chamber of Commerce in Jefferson County tried to convince the county government to take my farm and a few others for an industrial park. And that's the first thing that got me motivated. And when you're about to lose your family farm that's been in your family for 5 generations because somebody wants to put a speculative industrial park on it, that's enough to motivate anybody. And it certainly motivated me. And the couple of years later, I went to Nashville and lobbied a bill, and we got the industrial parks exception pulled out of Tennessee code. So that's what got me started. And then over the years and over, people came to me and said, we got this eminent domain problem here or there. And I just went back and worked on it. I've been working on it every year.
Well, that's amazing. I thought maybe there might be a personal connection. If you don't mind sharing, can we ask, were you able to save the farm, or did you lose it?
We saved the farm.
All right.
Politically, we defeated the effort to take the property at the local level. We convinced our county government to not use eminent domain, which they did not. They immediately dropped their efforts to take the property for an industrial park, and then a year or two later, we got the law changed.
Now, did that industrial park ever get built somewhere, and did it succeed?
No, we have a glut of industrial parks in Tennessee. We have about 7,500 acres of vacant industrial parks in my end of the state. I think in a 15 county area from Todd McKinley's Tri-Cities area to Middle Tennessee, we have about 82 or 83 industrial parks that are over half empty. So, no, the park didn't get built, and it shouldn't have been built.
Yeah.
Sounds like the correct answer came about in the end.
Yeah, to include the airport he just talked about, Tri-Cities Regional, which is my local airport I'll be flying out of on Friday. There's an industrial park up there that's barely used at this point, which is sad. So there's an answer for you. Whenever they want to expand, like, give us some proof of concept that, what you have is working. Oh, wait a minute, you can't. Let's keep it where we have it, folks. Don't take any more farms up there.
Well, this had to be, look, guys, I'm kind of sensitive to this topic. I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, other than the fact that what I see go up around me here in central Pennsylvania, there are developers that are just going back crap crazy, building houses, tearing up farmland, and people selling it off, making a fortune. It's their land to sell, but the township is not keeping pace, and they have an expansion plan, and they said this is a growth and they violated it all along. All they see is dollar signs, and now our roads are falling apart. At some point, not in the near future, but down the road, we're going to stress our water system, our well system that supports here through a co-op. We've had electricity issues here, and it's just like there's no break on this. And this isn't a eminent domain, but this is unbridled urban development in a peri-urban setting. And it's all a consequence of the fact that, in essence, this is a bedroom community for the capital of Harrisburg and for, Carlisle and a couple other big cities where people come here to live because the quality of life is better. Well, it's rapidly going downhill. So go home. Not in my backyard, right?
Right. David, we're coming up on the final couple minutes here. Where can people find you? Email, website, what have you? How do they get a hold of you?
Sure, I'll be happy to. I've got an email. I'm happy for anybody with any questions or any donations if they want to, work on the cause with me. My email is as follows: david.seal1961 @gmail.com. And that's DAVID period SEAL 1961 @gmail.com.
All right. Hopefully some folks will be able to reach out to you and maybe lend some advice, thoughts, maybe even a little monetary support for sure. You do the Lord's work there in Tennessee, right in my hometown or right in my home community, really. You're not too far away. And I really appreciate what you do for all of us here in the volunteer state. Any final thoughts from the panelists here, Colonel John, before David has to step away?
No, I want to thank you for his time. I really appreciate it. I think it's enlightening. Our audience has really enjoyed the conversation here, and I think it brings light to a topic that an awful lot of people don't really give a second thought to until they come looking for your farm, eh, Dave? That's when they pay attention.
That's right.
Somebody here was asking about what happened to the middle class, or where is the middle class? And I wonder, David, if you have any thoughts on that kind of question.
I know that housing costs are going through the roof, and the young people are having a really difficult time with housing. I don't know that government is the answer to that, but it's certainly stretching the young people financially. And I think that is a contributing factor to the loss of the middle class. In fact, I had this conversation with a legislator today, and then I think one yesterday about this exact thing. I really appreciate you all having me on the program tonight, and I look forward to coming back. I'd like to do a segment with you all on civil asset forfeiture, and I'd like to come back and report what happened on the eminent domain bill and maybe even on the civics education bill and school board prayer bill. So I'm looking forward to getting back on the program with you all and putting this out for the people to think about.
I can tell you just got 3 people nod their heads on this show while you were saying that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, David, I really appreciate your time here and appreciate giving us an update, the listeners and of course viewers out there. Probably only got a couple seconds here. John, we got that music playing yet?
No, about 30 seconds.
About 30 seconds. So the next hour, a few things we're going to talk about. One, obviously, is something we didn't get into. That's the State of the Union that happened last night in Washington, joint session of Congress there, the State of the Union. Very interesting. If you're an American and you support Americans and not illegals, stand up. Yeah. One side of the aisle stood up. The other side showed us who they're really supporting. It's truly not Americans. And we're going to talk about that and much more here in the second hour. We got a few seconds here before the music plays us out. But David, really appreciate you guys. Stick around here for the second hour. A lot to get to.
WSMN 1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero. Florida lawmakers are demanding answers after Cuba's Coast Guard opened fire on a Florida-registered speedboat, killing 4, injuring 6. Cuban officials say their forces were fired upon first in territorial waters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
A lot of the information that's out there is information that's been provided by the Cubans. We are going to verify that information independently and reach our own conclusions.
The boat was reportedly part of a flotilla attempting to evacuate family members from that island. The U.S. and Iran plan to hold more nuclear talks tomorrow in Geneva. President Trump has warned of possible military action if no deal is reached, saying he will confront threats to America. A Democrat from Texas was escorted from last night's State of the Union address.
Congressman Al Green of Texas held up a sign that said "Black people aren't apes," a reference to an AI video shared early this month by President Trump that showed former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. It's the second time in 2 years that Green has been ejected from the State of the Union address. Last year, Green was ejected after he shouted at Trump while waving his cane. I'm Monica Nelson.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is defending her decision to heckle President Trump during his State of the Union address last night.
The Congresswoman yelled out during the remarks, "You have killed Americans," as Trump declared a war on fraud while alluding to Minnesota's welfare scandal. Omar told CNN's Wolf Blitzer, "The president talked about protecting Americans, and I just had to remind him that his administration was responsible for killing 2 of my constituents." She also shared that she stands with Texas Congressman Al Green, who was ejected from the chamber during the speech while holding a sign that read, "Black people aren't apes." The sign was in reference to a now deleted video posted to Trump's social media depicting former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. I'm Chris Coraggio.
Wall Street closed with stocks in the green.
At the closing bell, the Dow rose 308 points, the S&P 500 gaining 56 points, the Nasdaq jumping 288 points. I'm Jennifer Polsoni.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled. And it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives. And MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, folks, go see Roger over there at Gate City Monuments for sure. Last night, State of the Union. Before we get into any of these things, did you guys watch it, or did you watch it after the fact, or what are your thoughts on it, Colonel? Before we dive into it,
I watched it live. I watched it live. I broadcast it and commented on it as it went on. It was something else. I wouldn't normally be all into political theater, but I enjoyed the political theater last night. The Democrats exposed themselves for exactly who they are. Almost a man and woman. Last time he spoke, he had that little kid who came up there, cancer survivor, was an honorary cop all over the place,
right?
And they couldn't rise for that kid. They were just despicable. And then Green last night. What an idiot that guy is.
Yeah.
No, black people aren't apes, but you're a moron. Yeah, simple as that, buddy. Simple as that. No, it was. Yeah, it was pure political theater. And Trump, the Republican Senatorial Committee in the House, all they need to do is take those 20 seconds. I think everyone here would agree with me that the purpose of government is to protect American citizens, not the aliens. If you agree with me, please rise. And they just show the Democrats, so the Democrats seated. So the Democrats
let the record
seated.
show we all stood up on this program, though, for sure.
I love how it's like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And then the two cackling hyenas, one whose citizenship is in question, Ilhan Omar, and another who's an ungrateful spawn of Palestinians we let stay in this country, who came here to use our university and clog up a seat could have been used by an American, Rashida Tlaib, an ingrate of all sorts. She loves Palestine so much. Why does she go live in Gaza? Those two start screaming back to the President of the United States. No decorum, no manners, no respect, no nothing. They're just a disgusting, vile human beings, almost to man and woman, the Democrats. I loved how he talked about no insider trading. He says, I guess Nancy won't vote for that.
Yeah, right. And she put out a clarifying statement. I think she stood up and said she was against it. And it's like, I'm against insider trading and all this stuff. It's like, you've benefited, to the tune of hundreds upon hundreds of millions, probably nearly into the billions after it's all said and done. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, look, it's a time honored Democratic tradition. They were for it before they were against it.
Right?
That's John Kerry.
Right?
He's
before
like a shed of water, man. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't hold me to that. I was for the bill before I was against it.
The thing about it is, though, in 2012, they had to stop trading on Congressional Knowledge Act, or known as the Stock Act. It's supposed to put it into inside trading, and so now we need yet more legislation to stop insider trading.
And McCain-Feingold was supposed to get money out of politics. All it did was get citizens restricted from the right to support their preferred candidate, and allows ungoverned PACs to do what they want with millions of dollars. McCain-Feingold, one of the worst pieces of legislation that this country ever had. But you know what? John McCain, the rhino sellout.
Yeah, I'll tell you about a PAC here in Sullivan County, Tennessee. We have a heated mayoral race. And one of the candidates has an outside PAC from DC. I'm not going to get into the connections here between, who they're connected with, but they have connections with an outside PAC. They sent out a negative mailer against her opponent. And then all of a sudden I called her out on it. She's like, oh, I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. Actually, I sat on the school board with her, by the way. I'll just put that out there. She's like, oh, I had nothing to do with it. I got the same mailer. I'm like, hold on a second. These are words you actually said at a Republican forum, at a Republican club forum. You said this. You had an actual flyer that almost looks exactly like this, minus the little characters that was put on it. And you're pretending you have nothing to do with this? I'm sorry. This is you verbatim. and it backfired on her in a big way, though. But outside PACs doing the bidding for candidates, and of course they can be like, "Well, I don't have anything to do with it because we can't have anything directly, related with the PAC with regards to the campaign." Nonsense. They're using your actual words to help benefit you. You have everything to do with it. The words originated with you. Anyway,
I think Courtney here says the penalty for members of Congress who violated the insider trading rule face a very lenient penalty. That would be true if it comes to a House ruling or something, and they were caught there. that'd be lenient. But insider trading is a violation of U.S. law, and they could be subject to the same sorts of penalties that what was that woman's name? I forget. Martha Stewart suffered.
Right. But I think Congress had loopholes because there was ways that they got the information that they could use it, and they couldn't be caught for insider trading. I think that
the big loophole in the Stock Act is they can't use their congressional knowledge and go out and buy stock. So say the ELD is going to go through, so I'm going to go invest into PeopleNet and Verizon and all these things that are going to be providers of such things and big buku bucks. If they do that previously, then they're trading on they're trading on congressional knowledge. However, nothing prevents them from talking to family members, and as long as nobody knows, that's one way around it. But the biggest thing is they get involved in group investing and become chair members or advisors in those groups. So when they invest as groups, then they advise, and so we don't know what they're advising.
Right, absolutely. I'm just sitting here reading all the different times that Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, or Al Green, or any of these people, the team, the squad, whatever we're calling them, stood up and protested in some way or yelled out, "You're lying," dozens of times that they did it. And I think 5 times in particular that he had to actually stop speaking just because of them alone.
He was talking right over them.
Yeah, those two. I think he stopped on like 5 occasions, and as they were just yelling and yelling and yelling. But yeah. But
you guys are talking about Rashida Tlaib and her classless act, but what do you expect for somebody who wears a pin on the left side of her chest that's F dash 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 ICE?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. She wore that in public, knowing that's going to be on national television. Everybody's going to see it. This is a real class act here.
No, that remember her mouth when she ran for office, and she talked about impeaching Trump. She wasn't even in office. She's a disgusting, foul, human piece of sludge that just needs to be excised from the body politic and ostracized because she's a hateful shrew that hates America. And I will personally pay for her cruise or her flight back to Gaza and send her there. That's where she should be, not here. Let her go to Gaza and do something productive there, run her mouth there, see how long they put up with her. I think she'll be as popular in Gaza as Gays for Gaza. It's not going to go over very well. Just saying.
Right.
Just saying.
I watched a video the other day, and there was a person, he's like, I went to Gaza and to try to help out. I've always been supportive as a gay guy. And he goes, then they just beat me up. It's like, yeah, they're lucky they didn't behead you or something worse. They just beat me up. I told him I was on.
I'll bet you if we sent Rashida Tlaib on a congressional delegation to Gaza, those people probably like, look, come on, man, anything. We'll give up the guns. We'll agree to peace terms. The Israelis can rule. Just don't bring her back here.
Yeah, and keep the other one away too. The one that was here on a peace mission. What's her name from the Sweden or wherever the heck she's from? Nutter. Anyway.
Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg, yeah. Don't bring her back. Don't bring Ilhan. Don't bring.
Did she get jail time or something recently?
Who knows?
I don't keep up with nonsense anyway. But it looks like back to the State of the Union last night. What are some things that stood out to you, John?
Oh, well, like Chris covered that right at the beginning. I think that must have stood out to everybody. It was so obvious, but. One of the things is the divisiveness Trump introduced there. I mean, he was lambasting the left.
Oh, he was.
Oh my God, he was laying it to him hard, and you could see their faces. They were getting so angry. It's kind of like Mark Kelly there. He puts out a post. I saw it on Facebook because I was scrolling through at the beginning, and he puts out stand with the whatever ship or whatever it was, basically saying, we're going to stand strong, and with Slotsky or whoever was sitting next to him, and next thing you know, he's getting lambasted by Trump, and he's not looking good at all, sitting there. I mean, slouched and just looks pathetic.
Yeah, no, he was pretty sad sack looking there, Kelly. Look, I mean, this is the guy who knows he's in trouble because he was He was directing service members to violate their oath to the Constitution by disobeying lawful orders, falsely claiming that he told them not to disobey lawful orders, but only unlawful orders. But that's not a determination that a PFC or a specialist or a sergeant or a lieutenant or captain can make when it comes to national security. It's one thing to disobey an unlawful order that someone tells you execute these prisoners.
Right.
You know that's wrong. You're trained
that's
that.
wrong.
It's quite another to tell a soldier that, you shouldn't go into Operation Venezuela because it's illegal. No, that's not how it works. And that's exactly what he did. And I hope that he suffers a penalty for that, gets stripped of his grade and gets reduced back in rank in his retirement, sees a small retirement from, because he doesn't deserve to wear the rank of captain. I'm sorry. Does that hurt his feelings? I'm too bad. That's unacceptable. He's an arrogant asshat, and it's a shame that he's a senator. The senators from Arizona have embarrassed us for years, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. It's really, really sad to see. Now, there were a lot of things in that speech. I mean, President Trump proposing new retirement for people that are not covered by, TSP and don't have 401k plans. And he's talking about, the government actually having $1,000 in matching funds for workers. That would have been nice the last 6 years for me, since I'm self-employed. But it's for about 56 million people like me that don't have a retirement plan in their current employment. So that's pretty cool. I was looking at that. That was nice. He also had this unique story, which I kind of brought up in the conversation with Dave there, about allowing data centers to build their own power plants, which is needed. I hope they build micro nuclear reactors, small modular reactors, which they can use to power this. And that way we'll keep pollution down. We'll not burden the grid, and these companies will be able to succeed. So that was also pretty cool. I enjoyed that. The gold medal men's hockey team, Connor Hellebuck being there. What's with the goober wearing a mask down there in front of, in the front of the hockey players? I'm like, what is this guy about, man? Dude, it's like he's like stuck in 2020. I mean, the COVID scam is over, man. You can take the mask off now. Unless you got tuberculosis and you're trying to not infect anyone else, take the mask off. What are you afraid of?
I thought maybe he's portraying Jason Voorhees when you said I missed the film.
Right.
He was the only person in the room.
Goalie mask,
German mask,
not Jason. It was.
Unless he has somebody at home who has an illness or something that we're not aware of, but then you probably shouldn't be there with all those people in that situation. He had somebody at home with cancer or something. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying if that were the case, probably best not to even be there in that situation.
I'm not trying to knock Chris's point, but it doesn't bother me.
No.
Somebody wearing a mask, and the reason why is because it's a personal choice for them. And if it's a personal choice for you, then so be it,
Stop, John. Sorry, it's not a personal choice. It's a political statement.
Nobody. In that case, you're right.
Nobody wore masks before 2020 except the Chinese. The only place I ever saw people wearing those masks were Chinese in airports. That's it.
Yeah.
No one else on the planet wore a mask.
I tell you, as an over-the-road truck driver,
we weren't wussified.
I've been to a lot of restaurants where they've had what my brother would call the hog trough, otherwise known as the buffet. And I see people that would go up there and they would take a napkin or something to handle utensils because they were concerned about germs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's all. I get germaphobes, but nobody was wearing masks in 2019. This is not because of this is either a phobia or it's a political statement. And where it was worn at is a political statement. Why are you in a room with 800 other people? Most of them old people. People carry infectious disease, just like little, snot-nosed brats. They also spread it around. That's the rest of us in the middle there, in the soft spot, in the cushion. We're not the ones spreading this stuff for the most part. So why would you go to a place like that with all these sick people? Just stay home, watch it on TV. But he was in the upper deck.
Are you afraid to hug old people?
No, there's no elder abuse going on here. I'm just saying that the members of Congress are old. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. She has been in Congress longer than most Americans have been alive.
She's the crypt keeper at this point in time.
Listen, it's well past a retirement age, like your colonel said.
Exactly. What I just want to say to the guy, it's not a tumor. Take the mask off. It's not a tumor. No, but I mean, the hockey team was pretty incredible. The first I've ever seen, I think it's the first time ever, Congressional Medal of Honor conveyed upon a service member, and we had a well, I don't know if he's an ace. He ever shot any more planes down, but a near ace. Four kills is you need 5 for it to be an ace. My cousin in World War II was an ace, and died in North Africa, unfortunately. But so he got 4 Soviet. We weren't fighting the Soviet Union, guys. We were fighting the Chinese in Korea 52. What were the Soviets doing attacking American aircraft? People don't talk about that, and you don't know about this because the NSA covered it up. The NSA knew about it. But the NSA we're afraid that if they let people know about it, they would figure out that they had the capability to spy on these people. So
this is pre-Cold War, and the Soviet Union was involved.
Well, I mean, it was the Cold War. Yes, it was the Cold War.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the wall came down that he was allowed to actually start talking about this, because they didn't care anymore. But so this guy who is a pilot in, I thought he said World War II, but he said for sure Korea, because that's where he used the Phantom craft to shoot them down. And then in Vietnam, he's also a pilot. He was a Navy captain. Just amazing, And then of course the World War II vet who was in Luzon, that was pretty incredible. The Coast Guardsman, the Coastie, who was awarded the Legion of Merit for valor for rescuing all those kids at that camp, 100 plus people, that flooding in Texas. And then of course the pilot that we didn't even know about, whose leg was virtually destroyed by machine gun fire flying that Chinook, and he managed to keep it in the air and turn the aircraft around so they could bring the fire down on the guys on the ground. Look, I mean, this was incredible. I mean, when do you get to see a Congressional Medal of Honor awarded? And it was, and I had some clown come in my stream last night and start chatting. So you're a hero because you got shot. I'm like, yeah, shut up, just go away, buddy. You're not a hero.
Oh no, I thought it was a great touch. You're right. It was a great touch, and Trump got criticized for it, but by the left, of course. But you're right. It was an excellent touch. The wife and I were watching it. We absolutely enjoyed that part of it. I thought, you asked for the highlight or the greatest thing about this. I thought this was the most entertaining State of the Union address I've ever seen. Trump was just comical but serious at the same time. He was just laying it out there. The way he lays it out there, he just just like Trump does.
And Mike Johnson did not violate the Federal Records Act, by tearing up speech. We didn't see that happen.
Yep.
Right. But look, it was, to me, I mentioned the one telling moment, which was, when they refused to stand and Trump said, stand up. The other one that was very telling to me is when the mother of two who homeschools and is a waitress in Pennsylvania, and Trump told her story and said she'll be $5,000 richer this year because we got rid of tax on tips, we got rid of taxes on overtime and on Social Security. And the Democrats couldn't stand and applaud a middle-income, low-income American, a mother of two. This is who they're supposed to be champions for. They're not champions for anybody except themselves. No. They couldn't stand for that. And then when Trump said, well, it's because the big, beautiful bill, we gave these tax cuts, and the Republicans cheered tax cuts. And he said, Democrats, you can't even bother to cheer. And then they got up, you voted against the tax cuts. And when he said you voted against tax cuts, they all got up and cheered. They cheered the fact that they tried to take our money away, to impoverish us so they can make $178,000 a year plus perks and benefits, free dental care, free medical care for life, so they can run their cake holes like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you think I got a problem with foreign policy, that's your problem, not mine. I was tired, and it's hard to think of something on the spot when they asked me. I was like, I really don't. All you Republicans just want to date me.
And my eye that's going crazy.
You still have that crazy eye thing. Oh my gosh, what an embarrassment. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I thought she was a bad bartender. Wow, man, let her get to foreign policy. So for me, that was the most telling moments of the whole thing. But you're right, John, it was political theater and it was entertaining. I actually enjoyed it last night. Yeah. It was something else. I enjoy watching South Africa because I just sit here and eat popcorn because I know it's all going to be lies. When I do the that's State of the Nation address, the SONA instead of the SONU. But this, I was actually entertained by first time. I actually enjoyed it, especially the second hour. I was like, dang, Trump he's got a double barrel shotgun, man. And he just popped it open and reloaded. Get ready, Rashid.
Oh yeah,
he is ruthless too, man. He loves to lay it out there, and he basically called them out on it. I mean,
it's brutal.
Flat out called them out.
And there's nothing they can say. Do you know what their response was? Affordability.
Now, who all was outside on the lawn there or on the mall? I
think there's about 47 of them, quite a few senators and representatives. AOC was out there. Schiff was out there. These are names I do remember because they're bigger names, but most of them were just non-essential people, names you don't normally recognize. And, it's funny because I was going to bring it up earlier. The one thing you're not hearing about today are the people on the mall. The only people said that, Todd, was us right now.
I didn't know anybody was on the mall. So, I do get the reference to the non-essential people, and that included Adam Schiff. I can 100%.
Right,
exactly. So no, they what they call it? They call it their own
Congress
State of the Union, but they didn't call it a State of Union address, and it was put on by the Move On organization, MoveOn.org, and they had Joy Reid out there, I think it was, doing whatever. It was like non-essential, from my understanding. It was cold. There were some people that come by. Remember last week we were saying this is a good time for conservatives to catch them while they're outdoors and go talk to them about conservative policies. Well, I think some people come by and heckled them and did such sorts of things.
I mean,
there wasn't that many people out there. Yeah.
When you think about it, I mean, if like we get the message. I was watching this TV thing. It's kind of like the nuclear war gets started by mistake, and it's all over nuclear silos and the National Security Council and stuff in the White House situation room. But if you think about this, like we get 30 minutes notice that you got to evacuate DC, and we need the continuity of government people. You know, they probably come in. Sergeant Arms says, Speaker of the House, President Pro Tem, Majority Whip, this congressman, that congressman. Senator Schiff, no, not you. The cook,
not you.
The cook, the door guard. I need the secretary. No, I'm sorry, Senator Schiff, not you. I need the person that mops the floor, not you, Senator Schiff.
No, but I got the secrets. I've got the. I know you'll continue to have the secrets.
We have the proof here in my hand. My grubby nicotine stained fingers. I have the proof. Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. It's here, but I can't show it to you. It's classified.
Yeah, right. It's I have to keep it in the skiff. It's behind this door, but I'm out here talking to you all about it. If you could read this, yeah, right. Come on, Shift. We know
you just have to take my word for it. You know, my mother used to say that the last person you want to trust is a guy who says, "Trust me," and that was Shift at that moment. You know,
right? Yeah.
Well, I think that what happened with Adam Schiff is when you said the skiff, I think he heard Jif. And he tried to get marmalade to go with his peanut butter. He was mixing his Jif with his marmalade. And so he just didn't know what a skiff was. Yeah, non-essential personnel. That would just definitely describe Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and of course, Adam Schiff. And we could throw, what's her name, Murkowski in there, and Susan Collins and Mitch McConnell. That's three rhinos we can get rid of and just throw them out too.
Yeah, we've got a front row for you right out here on the lawn. Just go out there. It's going to be very bright here in a moment, guys. Go out there and hang out.
Yeah. So, I mean, the medal stuff was pretty cool, including the gold medal. That was pretty impressive. The Democrats, of course, withheld their applause at the times they should have been applauding. And as I mentioned, some of the guests were pretty epic there. Michael Dell and his wife, $6.25 billion for the Trump accounts for these kids born for the next 4 years. That's incredible. I mean, that's an incredible start to life. It was amazing. Now, Trump didn't talk much about Iran. He kind of talked about it obliquely. So we didn't hear about that. He did talk about the tariffs and his disappointment. But as I said, with the tariffs all along, it doesn't matter. They've got a plan in place. They used the existing law. The Supreme Court's decision was pretty lame. The moment that the decision was handed down, they already started enacting a previous law from 1974. And the court itself said that the president has broad powers to apply tariffs. We disagree with ways doing it under this law. They're wrong, but it doesn't matter. Then, of course, this was an interesting one. Vice President J.D. Vance will lead a new fraud task force, an anti-fraud task. That's pretty interesting. That's a new policy proposal, which a lot of people aren't talking about. And, of course, Trump backed the banning congressional stock trading. And I don't think Nancy will vote for that. That was so funny. No. I laughed my butt off. That was too funny. And that wasn't the only thing. I mean, there's some pretty Delilah's law. He talked about Delilah's law, blocking illegal immigrants from driving. We have to have a law, a federal law, to say that you can't give driver's license to illegal immigrants. I mean, I saw today that we have to get a federal law to bar illegal aliens from becoming law enforcement officers. Apparently, some jurisdictions gave illegal aliens law enforcement jobs and gave them guns. They're criminals, broke in the country. But apparently there's a provision in the federal law that has a loophole that allows for illegal aliens to be armed as long as they're done by certain jurisdictions. It's insane. Why do you have to have a law to not give a driver's license to a criminal? Why do you have to have a law to let a foreign national not have a firearm and be a law enforcement? I don't want to be pulled over by a cop from Nicaragua who can barely speak English and has a gun. That won't go very well for me.
Right? They don't want you to have a gun, but they want to let foreigners have guns, right?
Exactly.
We do have a listener here in the comments says, love Trump last night. Got such a warm, proud feeling in my chest and has to swallow a tear now and then. The thankfulness to be a legal foreigner in the USA with a president like Trump is fabulous. So, yeah, appreciate you guys being here legally. And we appreciate legal immigrants who are here doing the right things.
Absolutely.
Not illegal. That's for sure.
So, I mean, those are some of the takeaways, some of the big things for me last night. But I like to just, after an hour, he just excoriated the Democrats. These people are just crazy. I almost fell out of my chair. That was so funny. I gotta make a meme out of that. Just take that clip and use it.
Look at the look on his face. It's like he puts his hand over, like. See, they're just sitting there, like the look on his face, like I can't believe they sat there for that. It's almost like a setup. It's like he knew they were going to do it, so he said it that way just to make them look like the boobs they are.
See, that's the thing about Trump. Trump derangement syndrome is a true affliction, and you could use it against your opponent. And so they keep talking about how the Democrats are going to take the House, and there's a chance of that, and they're going to take the Senate. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But the thing is that they discount Trump. And they do so at their own peril. This is the guy they tried to lock up over bogus charges. This is the guy that they had unreasonable bail set against, $500 million. I mean, that's excessive bail. That's against the Constitution. They got away with it, and that was struck down. This is the guy they tried to imprison for election fraud when they're the ones who committed the fraud. This is the guy they called a rapist who never touched a woman. This is the guy they lie about on every chance. This is the guy they claim had Russia collusion when it was Hillary Clinton who colluded to sell our uranium reserves to the Russians. It was the Democrats who colluded with everything. Donald Trump wouldn't sell the Ukrainians defensive weapons. I'm sorry, that was Barack Hussein Obama. He's the guy that refused when the Crimea. No, if they don't get out of Crimea, that's a line in the sand. What line in the sand, buddy? They got Crimea. They've had it since 2014 when you opened your Cake hole there, Obama. Right. It's still under Russian control. And oh, by the way, not only did they take it, they reinforced it. And that's how they helped launch their attack in 2020. 222. It's nonsense. Obama refused to give them weapons. He gave them Band-Aids and first aid kits and blankets. That's what we shipped to the Ukrainian military. Trump sent them Javelin anti-tank weapons. He sent them weapons. And then they tried to lie. You know, I love a Trump. Look, it's a big, beautiful call, man. I just called the guy. Congratulate Zelensky. I went in. How did I know he's going to turn out to be such a useless turd? If I'd have known that, I'd have never called him and said, hey, congratulations on winning.
Right. Then he got so much trouble on the call too, which was so sad, right?
Yeah.
Vindman and all those idiots.
Vindman, that moron. That guy should have been prosecuted. He's lucky he got out as a lieutenant colonel. Anyway, where does he get off thinking it's his judgment that replaces that of the president of the United States? I don't care if the president of the United States is Puxatawny Phil, the groundhog that tells us when winter's going to be every year. If he's elected president, then I listen to his lawful orders. And if I don't like them, I suck it up, Buttercup. I'll tell you what Obama did in Africa, I had some real issues with. But he was the president. It was a lawful order. I did it. And that's just the way it is. If you don't like it, you can resign. Or if you're old enough, you can retire. Otherwise, just shut your cake hole, do your job. But to substitute your judgment, an alien, naturalized American citizen, not even an American-born citizen, a Ukrainian at that. Right. In Ukraine, what the heck are we doing sending Ukrainian Americans to the Ukraine? That's the first problem. I mean, when I was in the Army, Todd, I don't know how it was when you came in. When I was in the Army, if you were born in Germany and you became an American soldier, you couldn't serve in Germany. You couldn't serve in Korea if you were Korean born. You couldn't go there. Why? For obvious reasons. Your family could be blackmailed. You could be turned. You might be a spy. We can't take that risk. Now I see all kinds of wackadoodles from crazy little, crazy stands that wind up working in our embassies in those very countries. And every time we turn around, we've got a classified intelligence leak. We've got people who have access to our facilities sneaking into our buildings and such like that. And why is this? Because we've let our guard down. We've let our standards down. And it's not good. It's not good, man. Not good.
Right. Absolutely. John.
So you brought up earlier about the House and the Senate may be taken over by Congress this election cycle. Cordy was talking about here. Unfortunately, last night we noticed how divided our nation is. I love President Trump. If our nation is this divided, how strong can the state of our nation be? And so a lot of people do have concerns that we're going to lose the House or the Senate or both to the left this come election cycle. Are you guys noticing social media and what's been going on in social media and how they're trying to turn things around and turn people against Trump to form public opinion against Trump? Is this not an issue? Or
it's not just social media, it's the media. I saw a poll published by ABC and New York Times claiming that 60% of Americans are not happy with the job Trump's doing on inflation. I'm like, are you high? Are you actually paying attention? Are you just buying this affordability lie? my price of gasoline went from $2.69 a gallon to $6.26 a gallon in Pennsylvania under Joe Biden because it was an inept foreign policy. His failures in Iraq, his failures in Afghanistan, the epic failure in Afghanistan, his failures with Russia, his scaring the energy markets, the energy futures, and just shutting down exploration. So I saw price of gasoline nearly triple. We're back to $2 a gallon now under Trump. Now, look, the president don't control prices, but his policies have an effect on it. And Biden has drove up energy prices. Trump's policies are driving down energy prices. And when you drive down energy prices, often the single biggest input other than raw material and or labor, you draw down prices. Prices have declined in many respects.
Good for economy.
A 65-inch LED Samsung, not one of these Vizios or these Chinese brands, a Samsung quality LED television for the VFW, $315. 65 inches. That's insane. That's with tariffs. I remember this. The tariffs are going to drive up prices. Inflation's going to be out of the roof. The economy's going to collapse. It's all a disaster. Trump is... Wait a second. What I told you about tariffs, we're right. The suppliers eat a lot of it. The producers eat a lot of it. The consumer eats a little bit of it. Prices have not spiked. The tariffs have worked. I'm not in favor of tariffs. But Trump was right. And I said he was right. Because we were being cheated by these other countries.
Yeah.
The European Union, 10% tariff, 10% tariff for every Ford that we ship to Europe. They have a 2% tariff. How is that fair? And on top of that, all these countries have this ridiculous value-added tax, which adds no value to a product. It's just a way for corrupt politicians to steal money out of your pocket and delude the sheep who can't think for themselves. Oh, I guess my car is worth $12,000 because 20% value-added tax. It's not really just worth $10,000. And so you've got the value-added tax, which is 20% or more in many European countries, plus a 10%. So the American car costs 30% more before it hits the showroom floor, plus the shipping over there, which that's just the cost of doing it, but the Europeans have to ship over. So you can't count that. But buying an American Ford in Europe is so much more expensive, and people don't buy them because they can't afford them. Why? Because of taxation. But they ship BMWs and Alfa Romeos and Range Rovers over here, and they pay 2% tariff. Now, how is that fair? Trump has not balance the scales out.
Not at all.
And that's why our prices haven't spiked. And plus, there's been deflation in many key fields. The price of eggs was $9 a carton for a dozen when Trump took over. And a week later, remember, they're crying, oh, Trump hasn't lowered the price of eggs. He's been in office for, 6 days. Remember that nonsense? Here's a year later, eggs cost 1/3 or less of what they did a year ago. Because we're not murdering our broiler birds and our hens that lay the eggs. The Biden regime falsely claiming there was bird flu spread all over the country killed 60,000 hens, or 60 million hens, 60 million hens, 60 million hens. They nearly wiped out our entire, our poultry stock over their bogus lies about bird flu. And that's why the price of eggs went up, because there weren't any eggs. It's called supply and demand. Adam Smith, David Ricardo, these retards need to read something once in a while. And instead, 60% of Americans say, well, Trump's not doing a good job of inflation. Are you high? Are you smoking crack cocaine? Is that a bottle of beer in one hand and a joint in the other hand? Because you're acting like a dingbat. I think I saw you idiots hanging out with Snoop at the Winter Olympics. Snoop Dogg. and that's right. And Martha Stewart there hanging out, acting like fools at the Olympics. Voting 60% that Trump's not doing a good job with tariffs? Are you high? Trump is doing an amazing job with tariffs. And quite frankly, that's in the face of him applying all these tariffs. I mean, the inflation has not gone up despite the tariffs. So you can imagine we might even have deflation if there hadn't been tariffs. Deflation is disastrous for an economy. So anyway.
One of the things, Chris, is, and you may be able to elaborate on this better than I can, but through the World Trade Organization, we have signed treaties based on tariffs and fair trade.
Yes.
And all these other nations throughout these years have been violating those treaties. They've been increasing tariffs against us while they expect us to maintain ourselves to these treaties. And we kept the treaties low for them. And this is what Trump is really talking about. It's been unfair trade. This has not been free trade at all. This has been unfair trade. And he's trying to balance the scales and force these people back into play.
Well, every time I walk into Starbucks or one of these, these places where they talk about fair trade, I just chuckle. Fair trade? Really? Fair trade? So because you're buying coffee at 3 cents a pound more and you're giving these people fair trade? No, that's not fair trade. You don't know what fair trade is. But as far as the companies violating World Trade Organization rules, charging us 10% tariff for automobiles would not violate that. However, South Africa charging us a 70% tariff to ship our poultry into there, that is a clear violation of World Trade Organization rules. And it's something the United States should have taken them to court over, but we didn't do that. You've got many other instances of this where this happens. China violates World Trade Organization all the time. Copyright theft, trademark infringement. They do it all the time. All this fake Disney stuff that they make in China, ship over here and flood the marketplace and put producers out of business here, put our textile manufacturers to business. This is all in violation of the World Trade Organization. And they get away with it because we've had weak, cowardly, useless, feckless, callow. That's weak and callow is the same thing. Useless chief executives and even worse Congresses for the past 50 years. These people are drunken sailors that have no responsibility to the American people. The number of actual patriots in Congress, we've talked about this before, in the House of Representatives, maybe 115. In the Senate, you're lucky if you got 28 of them who are actually patriots. The rest of them are scumbag, fleecing off. They're like ticks eating off the blood of the body politic. And they're small, so you don't see them. There's only a couple hundred of them. And they just suck all the blood out of us with new laws to take our liberty away, sap our freedoms. And people vote for them. People never vote their members of Congress out. It's sad, pathetic, because most people have no idea what's going on because they don't pay attention until it affects them. When it affects them, suddenly they care. Most people didn't care about illegal aliens coming here. Why? Because they didn't have to get jobs working at Applebee's. Let the illegal aliens do that. You know, who cares? I could pay $1.99 for a pint of raspberries because we pay illegal aliens 30 cents an hour, which is not a livable wage, driving all the Americans out of the marketplace because we're not going to pay them $7 an hour living wage. We're going to pay the illegals 35 cents an hour. Well, okay, I don't care. I get my raspberries from Trader Joe's for $1.99 for a whole quart. Yeah, please stop it. When it affects you, then they get involved. Most Americans don't pay attention. I always, what I love about this, Todd? Well, I don't like politics. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you like politics. Right. It comes for you.
Right. And here's the thing. I don't like the dirty politics, the nastiness of it, but we have to deal with it in order to get things done in a positive manner. You have to deal with the negative along with the good. And the thing is, like you said, we don't elect our elected officials in far enough numbers, from election to election. Think about the re-election rate is what, 80% or maybe higher.
Incumbents, it's like 85% re-election rate.
Right. Yeah. And outrageous. I mean, you think about this, the people who do you a disservice, they show up ever so often. They tell you how good they're doing. You don't know because you're not doing your homework. And then you reelect them because, hey, they remember your name. They said your name. It's like, oh, they said my name, Todd. They must be a good congressman. Oh, my God, I'm going to reelect them because they said my name. Somebody reminded them of their name just before they said your name, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway.
You guys are talking about this, and all I can think of is Omar increasing her wealth from $6 million to $30 million in the span of 12 months. And there's Kennedy grilling her going, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that either you're lying about something or you're super, super smart. And I don't think you're super, super smart. So,
no.
Well, what's fascinating too is I just watched season 3 of The Night Agent. I love that show, even though it's on Netflix. But Night Agent season 3, and the ending, you've got people who you got a guy that's honest in a high political office and pure to the core until his wife did something crooked, and suddenly it's his family. So he turns into an evil bastard just like that. He spins on a dime. That's the problem with politics. It corrupts people. And many of these people would have been easily corrupted if they had the opportunity elsewhere. But in politics, it's just too easy. It's too easy. Everybody wants your attention. Everybody wants favor. They'll tell you things that you can profit off of. And you sit there and you get rich and you take advantage of society. Too many of them are crooks.
Well,
Not enough
there's
patriots.
kind of like a groupthink process. That's the problem with the parties is you get involved with a party and they're like, hey, you do realize you can do it like this, or you realize you can do that. They start, it's like that, when in Rome, and it's like, well, they're leading me to do all these things. So we'll do all these things. Let's go along to get along, and things start to deteriorate for them. So we've seen people go in there that were really good elected people. They're like, hey, you know what? This is a great candidate. We're voting for him. And we get them there, and within 2 to 4 years later, everything starts to shift. Everything's changed, and this person's no longer interested in his constituents. You start to see this person now has a great deal of wealth they didn't have when they went into office. So you start to think, oh, there you go. Our forefathers warned us of this. Another corrupted politician.
And their friends are all of a sudden different friends than you, even though you helped them get into public office. All of a sudden, they don't return your phone calls quite as often as anymore.
They got better connections, Todd. They're rubbing elbows with pretty big folks.
You don't need a local guy who helped you get into office. You need the big money that's outside of the local area to stay in office. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of make a mistake because we keep electing these people like this with the party system. I kind of wonder, would we be better off if we look for independent candidates that work local and with their people. They have their town hall meetings and stuff like that. They don't need the financial support of the big corporations or big donors if they're connected with their communities. Isn't this what's missing? Isn't that the missing formula in politics these days? Is that connection of the candidate and the people that they're supposed to represent?
Right, in a big way.
And they wouldn't need the money if they were connected with them, if they were meeting them on a regular basis and they were listening to one another and talking to one another and interacting together. It seems to me they would be getting reelected based on their merit.
Merit, what a concept. At least DEI's gone. That's died.
Thanks to Trump.
Yeah. Well, thanks to us, we voted back in.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Let's shift gears here really quick, and I want to talk about the immigration, the situation with South Africans. I know we talked about it the last few shows we've been on. I know the Colonel's been covering it quite regular. If you could, Colonel, talk about some of the stuff that we can expect upcoming with regards to the refugee program from South Africa. And I know we got some people coming on next week. If we could tease that out too.
Yeah, sure. On my program, I had a South African refugee who took the wrong path. And what I mean by that is he was desperate to get his family out of South Africa because they were being attacked because who they were, persecution. And so he took someone's advice and took his family to Ireland, declared asylum. Ireland is not very friendly unless you happen to be brown and a Muslim and you want to overthrow and overrun the country. They don't consider South Africa a dangerous place, so they don't approve those things. And so he was there for a long time, and they weren't allowed to work, and it was just a real mess. And anyway, their final deportation order came, and they were going to be arrested if they didn't leave. So they went back to South Africa. And then the timing was almost perfect. This program came out, and so he put his interest in to be in the U.S. refugee program. He got approved, and now he's over here in America with his family. He's very happy about it, but he took a real risk. I advise people not to do asylum. It's not an easy process. It's fraught with peril, and if you get rejected, it doesn't look good. And you're also in limbo the whole time you're in asylum. Whereas a refugee is a recognized refugee. You're protected. That's why the whole thing, refugee, we're protecting you. We're giving you refuge. So the guest next week, I don't know how many we can get in the studio there, John, or how many want to come down, but he's got his wife and 2 kids. But John's going to help organize transport, get him down the next week. He'll be in the studio for the program on the 4th of March, I think that is. Does that sound right? Or is it?
Yeah, it's 4th or 5th, which is
250th show, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, I can't believe we've done 250 shows. Wow. So he's going to be there. So what's going on with refugees is that the U.S. government has paused the program from South Africa for operational reasons and freaked out an awful lot of people in South Africa, many of whom had tickets, and they found themselves in a real bind. I'm supposed to leave, on Tuesday, and now I'm stuck. I have no house. I have no car. I've gotten rid of everything. And where are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to eat? I mean, these are fair questions. I mean, Trump did the same thing last year to 22,000 people around the world who were supposed to come over, already had tickets. So the pause is from the 23rd of February until the 9th of March. So about 15 days. And hopefully this will all be sorted out in that time frame. So, yeah, it's a lot of South Africans very nervous about this. But there's an awful lot of propaganda. We just saw Anderson Cooper in his swan song for 60 minutes went to South Africa and made a propaganda piece in which he only talked to one side of the argument and dismissed things about South Africa. For instance, one of the things that was going on is that President Trump in the Oval Office last year played the video of the memorial that was put up for Glenn and Vita Rafferty. 2 people lived on a farm who were brutally murdered. It wasn't a robbery. It was a murder. It was intended to chase people off the land. But their neighbors, one of them, Darrell Brown, a farmer, put up all these crosses, about 1,000 crosses lining a road, which was the route to the funeral or the ceremony for the wake for the people who were murdered. And of course, it made international headlines. It was all over South Africa. And then Ramaphosa lied and said, well, where's this at? I've never seen this before. At the end of those crosses, there's a big banner across the road that said, Ramaphosa's, do something about this, essentially. So that when that video was played in the Oval Office, after he said the most famous line, Natalie, dim the lights, Natalie. Remember, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
When Natalie dimmed the lights and that video played, he said, these are burial sites, where people are buried. They're not burial sites. They look at the cross, are too close. The people have to be laid out sideways facing into the fields in order to be buried next to each other like that. So he misspoke. Well, of course, the media glommed onto that and said Trump's a liar, yada, yada, yada. But Anderson Cooper went there, and his whole purpose was to dismiss the whole white genocide narrative. Well, the white genocide narrative is something that the political left has been fostering and has been fomenting and has been repeating endlessly. Trump has used the term 2, maybe 3 times, but every time he's used it other than that, it's in response to a question by a journalist who asked him about white genocide. Like in the White House, Annika Larsen from South Africa said, Mr. President, now that President Ramaphosa is here, do you still believe there's a genocide in South Africa? To which Trump said the following: I'm not convinced of that. That should have been the end of the conversation. But no, they want to take this story and they want to attach a weak argument about white genocide, because many people consider it's a weak argument, although there are a case to be made that is strong. They want to attach it to their opponents to dismiss the fact that white people are being persecuted in South Africa. But the reality is they are being persecuted. Whites, blacks, whites, coloreds, and Indians are being persecuted in South Africa. And they want to take this whole white genocide, and Cooper is guilty of this when he was at CNN. He ran that fake documentary that I was supposed to be involved in, but they never put me in the video, called Misinformation, White Genocide, because I wouldn't lie about Trump and about immigration law. So they didn't like that. So they just left me out of the video.
Right.
Cooper ran that story, which lied about this situation. They ran the same segment about the crosses. But the farmer himself, at least in this segment, is allowed to say, I don't know how much they cut out his conversation left on the floor, but he was allowed to say that, well, those crosses weren't grave sites. They were memorials for the 1,000 farming community members who were murdered. But Cooper just went right past that. Anderson Cooper just ignored that. So they're trying to dismiss the burials, and fine, Trump was wrong. But it's still 1,000 dead men, women, and children who were tortured, abused, murdered, raped in these homes in South Africa. But they just go right beyond it. And then the people they talk to are just comical. I mean, they talk to an avowed communist, a betrayer of his own people, Max Duprier, a very famous journalist who's contributed to the toxic racial environment in South Africa, a white guy who hates white people. He was in that. And he's like, I've never been a victim of persecution. Of course not, buddy. Communists run the country. They love their own. They take care of their own. You're not going to be persecuted by communists. You are a communist. It's ridiculous. No, it was such a ridiculous joke. I did a video on it. Several other smaller channels did a video on it on YouTube. But now one of these guys has millions of viewers. A gamer just did a video, and so it's going to get a lot of attention. This thing is backfired because CNN and CBS are marching lockstep, trying to convince people there's nothing going on in South Africa. Even South Africans who've disregarded this for years now are waking up to the reality that life. Well, I'll just say what Trump said. Bad things are happening in South Africa. Bad things are happening in South Africa. They really are.
Yeah, absolutely. John, what are your thoughts on anything going on in New Hampshire, South Africa, wherever in the world?
No, actually, there is something that came to mind here a moment ago. Is you guys remember DJ Daniel? Last State of the Union address, he was recognized. No, he did. Actually, that's what I was going to say. Is he did not pass away. There was an internet rumor that he died.
Yeah,
but he did not. And
true.
I know we had Eddie Smith on this show before. He does Patriots Prayer Network, and he actually had DJ's father on here recently because this rumor spreading around on the internet to show everybody, hey, no, look, DJ's here. He's still fighting his battle, and his father's here. And so I just want to put it out there and let folks know that you may be seeing that DJ Daniel had passed, but he has not. So.
Well, one of the viewers in the chat here in Afrikaans said the following: "Die tijd om te speel is oor. Ons het verraaiers in ons huis." The time for games is over. We have traitors in our midst. Essentially, is the literal translation. The literal translation is "in our house," but literally it means "in our midst." We have traitors in our midst. Yep, absolutely.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, he's referring to the documentary and what happened there. Look, I mean, I know how these things work. I mean, I've been involved in Hollywood, and I've been involved in documentaries and news organizations. And most of what you say doesn't make it off the cutting room floor. There's only so much time. They're doing lots of people are trying to craft it together so that it's interesting and keeps the audience engaged. And so not everything you say gets put on there. But what's interesting for me is that Cooper actually had some objectivity in the broadcast. He got a few things partially correct, but his research is lame. He said, 1% of white South Africans live in poverty. That's poppycock. That's data from 2011. Things were demonstrably different in 2011. For instance, a recent study came out from the University of Cape Town, which says that in 2012, 61% of white South African households earned 75,000 Rand or more. And that's considered the level of middle class, 75,000 Rand, which is not that much. That's annually. So we're talking, not a whole lot of money there. But anyway, 75,000 Rand is middle class in South Africa. In 2012, 61% of white households. 29% of black households were at that same threshold. So there's a disparity there, big disparity between black and white, especially when you consider most people are black, about 4 out of 5 people. But the thing that they mentioned that they don't highlight, and he doesn't address either, is that from 2012 to 2024, the percentage of white households went from 61% not to 65 or 69 with an improved economy, but only 41% of white households now reach 75,000 Rand per year in income, which means that half or a third of the population, white population, has descended into the lower income ranks or poverty, not 1%. And he's claiming 1%. It's ridiculous. And now the black population middle income has grown to 41%, which is good, but it hasn't come because the economy has grown. It's because they've stolen and taken it from minorities and distributed to other people. That is not a sustainable model. You're treating the pie as if it can't grow, but a rising tide lifts all boats. But if you don't put more water in the pool, nobody's going to get better. They're all going to lap up what water's there, and everybody, big dog gets the most, the rest get nothing. And that's what's happening in South Africa.
There you go. I want to go back really quick before we head out. We talked about the U.S. Olympic team, the men's Olympic team especially, winning gold. And, of course, Kash Patel celebrating in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
What issue, if any, do you have there? Or what are your thoughts on that? I'll go to Colonel after John.
From what I understand of it, Kash Patel is being criticized for possibly using government funds for personal use while he's visiting in Milan. And from my understanding, he went there for business purposes. That's what he said. I come here for business purposes. I have no issue at all if a government employee flew over on business purposes, but said, hey, I'm going to take an extra day while I'm there for personal time. As long as he's using his own funds for personal time, who gives a crap?
Right. Go ahead, Colonel.
Yeah, well, a lot of my personal travel over the years was in conjunction with official travel. I would take holiday, and since the ticket was already purchased, doesn't cost government any more money, I would stay or travel from there to another point in my destination. For instance, I went to Portugal when I worked at Defense Intelligence Agency for a conference, and then I took like 3 weeks leave from there because I had leave I had to take. And so they flew me to Europe. And then I flew myself all over Europe using Ryan and German Wings and EasyJet, and had a fantastic 3-week vacation at my expense. And then I returned on the government ticket because they had to bring me back. So there's nothing wrong with that. But it really doesn't matter. It isn't germane in the case of Kash Patel, because Walter Mondale was at Lake Placid in 1980 when the Americans beat the Russians, and was in the locker room with the American team. And then he was at the Finland final. So the vice president of the United States was there representing the executive branch at the Olympics. Nothing wrong with that. Joe Demented Biden was at the last Olympics when Obama was president. He sent Joe Biden, who was there, and we all just kind of vomited. They went there as vice president on official business. The only thing that I found a bit odd is that Kash Patel was jumping up and down like a 6-year-old with a bottle of alcohol in his hand. You can jump up and down like a 6-year-old. I was jumping up and down like a 6-year-old, but not with a booze bottle in my hand when I'm the director of the FBI. That's not a good look. I'm not going to criticize him for that, but I would pull him aside and say, listen, Rocco, you're not in a frat house. You're the director of the FBI. James Comey is a jerk and he's a criminal, but at least he's a smartly dressed criminal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that's my take on that. It's much ado about nothing. These are sour pusses. Did you see the Huffington Post? You can't believe people are celebrating the American flag. Why? Why not? What is your problem? 46 years. I thought I'd never see another gold medal the way this is going. It's absolute insanity. Oh, by the way, they try to make a fake controversy out of Trump and the women's team. Oh, he didn't invite the women's team. They were invited. They deferred. They're coming to the White House next week, and they're going to get their own ceremony at the White House, which will be broadcast on TV, not the State of the Union address. What a bunch of these people are evil. They're always looking for something.
What made them change their mind? Did you ever hear, or did they?
I don't know that they ever changed their mind. I don't know that it was ever. I suspect it wasn't communicated because someone didn't bother to tell folks what was really going on.
I think it was reported that they're not coming this week, and it was reported, they said they're not going to come, which isn't true.
Right,
like the Colonel said.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was some misinformation that they didn't.
They left off half of it.
And it got exacerbated because Trump joked around when he was talking to them on the phone. He goes, well, guys, I'm going to invite you to the State of the Union. I guess I better invite the ladies. Otherwise, they're going to try to impeach me. And they're like, oh, seriously? It's a joke. Relax. When they came down, the television from the White House was only focused on one row. I'm like, what? There's only 6 hockey players? Where's the other 12, And then what I couldn't see is that, there was actually more. And then they came down 2 sets of stairs because the camera wasn't out there. But look, these people are just evil. It's always something. That's why I think that the guys who march, I think they march because the date of Roe versus Wade. That's why they do it. But it's always in the wintertime in January when it's freezing in D.C. when the Right to Life March takes place. which is probably good because the demented baby killers won't come out in the cold because they're wusses. So, if it was in the summertime, they'd probably then be out there attacking the right to lifers. But because it's 20 degrees or colder in January, these wusses will never come out there and mess with the right to lifers.
There you go, for sure. Yeah. Probably got about a minute left there, John. Is that right? Or 30 seconds?
About 4 seconds.
All right. Tune in next week on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM at 7 p.m. Eastern when we have the Common Sense Conservatives help bring you back to reality. Until then, take care and God bless.